Hey guys, this is our second attempt at doing this. Hopefully it works out better. We're learning as we go. We are going to start a podcast called The Breaker Brief, where we discuss, we being me and whoever I can rope into it, training, fitness, nutrition, diet, lifestyle, and anything else focused around ideally CrossFit. It's going to be conversational. Today I'm joined by my wife, Mallory, and co-owner of Breaker Strength. Not on paper though. On paper I own 100%. It's all mine. But
until I divorce you.
Until she divorces me. But my co-owner and life partner and I are going to discuss CrossFit. In the future, expect to see other guests, whoever me, can convince to join. So we have some people lined up because they work for me and they don't really have a choice. But because of COVID and the limited order and the fact that I wanted to do this in person, it's going to be Mallory and I probably for a couple of weeks. If we're going one every 2 weeks, we'll have to get used to this. Fun fact, I was writing the description for the podcast and I Googled bi-weekly, and bi-weekly can mean both every 2 weeks and twice a week. And like everyone was like, yeah, it just means both those things. What a dumb phrase. Thoughts?
I do not feel strongly about...
You have to use your authoritative voice.
The use of...
There you go.
Bi-weekly, except for I would generally lean towards every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would lean to every 2 weeks too, but I didn't want people to get the wrong impression that I was going to do this every twice
a week is like a weirdly specific time frame, and I don't feel like there needs to be a specific word for it.
Well, we run twice a week in our training program. We run bi-weekly, but this podcast is also bi-weekly.
Okay.
In the future, guys, I'm going to figure out how to mix separate sound channels. I just wanted to get this started today because I've been putting off doing it for like over a year. Since my last podcast ended. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I had a 3-episode stint on the now defunct Tidal Away podcast. So if you want to check those out, you can. You can see Sasha on them as well. She's on the last episode, which is really good. So if you haven't checked that out, just Google Tidal Away in Spotify or iTunes, and there's some more podcasts. If you like this one and you're like, man, maybe they won't do another one, boom. Guarantee at least 3 more times you can listen to me talk.
Actually just listened to a podcast in which they were talking about other podcasts, and they said that the average length of a podcast will last is 6 episodes.
Oh, that's how long it lasted. I think the title one was 6 episodes.
Yeah, 6 episodes. That's how long most people last in their podcast.
Okay, so our new goal is to last... Oh, you can hear my keyboard, it's real loud. Our new goal is to last 7 episodes. I can definitely get 7 of these. I can't even find it right now. There it is. I can definitely... Oh, it lasted 6 exact episodes. Man, so my last podcast was a stereotype. Our goal is 7. Just outlast that one. That was monthly though, so we'll have to get it faster. Okay, I think that's enough rambling on. So we're just going to talk about CrossFit. In the future, we'll get someone to kind of like maybe sit down and interview me, because I'm assuming, and maybe Mallory will ask me some questions about myself, but I'm not a big fan of actually talking about myself, so we'll see how this goes. And neither is Mallory. Mallory's also not a big fan of talking about herself, but I'm a big fan of talking in general, so hopefully it goes well. She's not a fan of talking in general. Okay, so without further ado, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Mallory. I'm married to Thom.
Authoritative voice.
This is my authoritative
That's better.
voice.
Don't want to you're angry with me. Just use your annoyed voice.
We met at a CrossFit gym, specifically Tidal Danforth, in like what, 20...
I don't remember. So long ago. It's on my resume because it's the year I started there. Wait. I can pull up my LinkedIn. That'll tell me.
2015.
Guys, don't worry. We're going to get the details.
Anyways, I moved to Toronto from Ottawa, and I had previously been doing CrossFit in Ottawa. And then when I got to Toronto, I brought up Google Maps and typed in CrossFit gyms and learned that Tidal was like 700 meters away.
From your house?
From my house.
Yeah, eventually we did live in together. Okay, so
yes.
You met me May of... it was probably June, because I started working for Tidal before I coached. Let's say May of 2018. That's
correct.
Wait. There's one more rule. 2015. There we go. That makes way more sense.
Yeah, because I got like a Facebook photo notification from something that happened 5 years ago, and it was a thing that you were involved in.
Okay, that makes sense. We met November 2015. Okay. So that makes sense. I had a bunch of positions there with Tidal CrossFit, and that's why I don't know how to use LinkedIn, because why would I?
So I had been doing CrossFit for probably 2 years before I moved. I know the first time I did the Open was in 2014.
We can pull up your Open results. Eventually, we'll get like a guy who pulls up things for us, like in all those other podcasts. But for now, it's just going to be me.
Yeah, so 2014 Open, pretty sure it's the first time I did it. And...
Well, if I use this keyboard, it's going to be quieter.
Then I moved to Toronto and attended Danforth for, 2 years? Basically the entirety of my master's degree.
And then you love CrossFit so much, you forced me to buy one?
No. That's not accurate.
That's not what happened? You didn't love CrossFit so much, you begged me to buy a CrossFit gym?
No. Then you bought a CrossFit gym and...
I did. I bought into a CrossFit gym.
Then we moved to Hamilton and I took 2 years off of CrossFit.
Well, you were still doing... some people would say you were still doing CrossFit because you were squatting. And essentially, like, according to some, that's all. If you're squatting and rowing in like a workout, you're doing CrossFit. According to some, I don't know if I believe that, but just saying, some people would say you still did CrossFit.
Well, I actually feel like those 2 years were like pretty beneficial because they gave me some time off to unlearn some bad habits.
Yeah, you did have some bad habits.
I had developed in my initial CrossFit experience, and now here we are. I guess
You're pretty fit now.
I'm all right.
Well, let's just see. I pulled up the Open. So in 2020, you were 10,090. I read that right. No, 1,097th in Canada. So now the site's not super great. So now we're going to have to pull up the current thing. So remember that number, 10,097. And that was in Canada.
Okay.
So we're going to do the same thing. We'll see how much you've improved. I'll have to type your name in. I don't know how to spell. Okay. So 10,097th, you doubled up. 548th. And you qualified for the quarterfinals, the brand new quarterfinals. So maybe we should talk about that. So how'd you enjoy your quarterfinal experience? You made it a goal to qualify for the quarterfinals in next year, and you qualified this year.
Yeah, I qualified with about 1,000 spots to spare.
1,000. So I wouldn't say just squeaking in there because 1,000 seems like a lot.
It is and it isn't because 1,000 spots is like sometimes just like a couple of reps here or there in a workout.
You beat me though.
Yes, but I would say that it was probably easier to qualify as a woman.
Don't sell yourself short.
But the quarterfinals was fun. It was more intensity than I probably am used to, and I'm still a little bit messed up now, even though...
It's been a week?
It's been a week.
It's been a week. Well, it's been like a week plus a day, actually, since it started. It ended on Saturday for us, though.
Yes. And...
For you, I didn't do it.
I would say that the workouts did not lean particularly towards my talents. There's some high-skill gymnastics and the rope climbs and strict handstand push-ups.
You did good, though.
Yeah, the rope climbs, I'm really scared of heights, so they did not go that smoothly for me.
So I guess people probably don't know the workouts. So maybe when we talk about a workout, we should just review one real quick. So the rope climb workout, this is workout number, I think it was 2?
It was workout 2, yes.
Workout 2. This is one people were afraid of. And there's been lots of controversy on the internet, if you follow the internet, because of the amount of GHD sit-ups in it. So
if you're aware of the internet.
If you're aware of the internet. And the controversy that seems to follow people liking to argue about it.
So it was 60 GHD sit-ups, 6 rope climbs, 60 pistols, 55, 50, 40, 4, 40, 30, 3, 30.
Yes. And you didn't finish.
No,
just throwing it out there for everyone.
An 18-minute time cap.
18-minute time cap. 18 or 20? No, it was 18.
I think it was 18. And really scared of heights, so I had to like really hype myself up for each of the rope climbs. What did I do?
You mean what'd you do?
Like I got into the round of
I have no
50.
idea. I don't remember.
I got into the round of 5 rope climbs. But by the end it wasn't my fear that was holding me back, it was my forearms, which were not capable of gripping things. And the first workout was 3 rounds of 10 strict handstand push-up, 10 hang dumbbell power clean, and 50 double unders. Rest 1 minute, and then 10 kipping handstand push-ups.
Which you didn't get to.
No, I did not get to. 10 shoulder to overhead with dumbbells, and then 50 dumbbells with a minute of rest in between. And I got into the third rounds of handstand push-ups, which was probably about as good as I could have hoped.
You did great.
They don't last well.
So, you enjoyed yourself?
Yes, except for the final workout where I was unable to snatch 135.
Yeah, the final workout was pretty hard. I did it. That's the only workout I did of all of them because I didn't have to. And I snatched 185 a bunch of times.
Yeah, so 135 is actually more than my current 1 rep max by 10 pounds. And even though sometimes those like competitive workouts can kind of produce a miracle, I do think it was asking a bit much to get a 10-pound PR in my snatch, even though it took me like 3 years to add 10 pounds to my snatch before that.
Yeah. Wow. So. Okay, so you have improved quite a bit. You doubled your placement. So what would you say is the number one thing people can take away from your experience doing that? How did you get so much better besides having access to a gym during quarantine? What did you change about your training, or is there anything specific like that?
Well, I think initially, it started when we moved to Hamilton, because we started putting a lot more time and effort into thinking about our nutrition. Got on that RP train.
Oh yeah, we did focus on our nutrition.
Yeah, so started weighing and measuring food a bunch. I did a lot of back squatting at the McMaster gym, which is where I was working out at my lunch break because I was working for McMaster at the time. And then when we came back, we moved back into Toronto. I think I was like really prepped to move a little better, to move with a little more confidence. And I also think I had a bit of a mindset.
I think that would be the number one thing, is the shift in your mindset I saw.
Yeah. So I felt like before I would come in and I would do a workout and I would try hard, but I wasn't maybe necessarily being as honest with myself as I could have been about how much I was willing to suffer, or even how much I was able to like rise to the occasion of workouts. And
I think that's really important. I think that's the big takeaway, and the reason that I asked you that leading question is that I think a lot of people think they're working hard, and you are working hard. I'm not going to like discredit you and be like, you're not working hard. You are working hard, but what happens when you want to get better at CrossFit, if you're an RX athlete and you want to get a little bit more RX, or if you want to get to that RX level, one of the big things you have to look at is how much effort you're putting into your workouts. And so I think a lot of people think they're putting efforts into their workouts because they're getting sweaty, but maybe they're not strategizing, maybe they're not scaling appropriately, which is something we'll circle back around to in a little bit. Or maybe they're just not pushing, like when their body's saying stop, they're listening on that first kind of go around. And normally you can do a couple more reps of everything before you have to. And a couple more reps here or there are what add up to progress. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah. So I think I went from being like, oh, like I'm tired, I'm going to just do these burpees really slowly, to being like, well, I'm tired, but I can do these burpees faster than I want to. Or I don't need to put the bar down right now. Or I can, just take one more breath and jump back up. So just being more cognizant of how much rest I was taking. And certainly before I was still, getting a good workout, and I would always end up sweaty. But being honest with myself about whether or not I was taking a break because I wanted to, or you needed to, or I needed to, was, I think, where a really big difference came. And there was like this video a long time ago of Camille, who, if you are not up on the elite CrossFitter scene, was a woman who won the CrossFit Games in 2014. And there's a video of her training, and she was making fun of herself by saying like, oh, I'm going into the pain cave. Are you going to come into the pain cave? And I actually think that's kind of like an apt descriptor for the place that you have to go. If you really want to excel, you have to like be willing to go into the pain cave.
Yeah, and so that's something that like Mallory can say that, and it took her multiple years to figure out how to do. Some people are naturally inclined to do it. Most people aren't. And so some strategies, we'll talk about maybe what she did in a second, but some strategies are, one, when you come to a workout with like an assault bike or a row, something that you have a monitor on your screen, just try and make the monitor go up. And maybe not this time, but next time. Or find a pace that's a little bit faster than you want to and hold it, and like force yourself to hold it. At the end of the day, all you can do is like your best effort involve forcing yourself to do something. But but just try and do it. Or maybe it's like there's 20 burpees, you try and do those burpees in a minute every single time. And you might not get it, but forcing yourself to just set that goal is a really good way of kind of learning what that pain cave is. Because I think that most people don't quite go to that spot on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I will also say that there's a difference between being in the pain cave and being in pain.
Yes.
You should not be
in
pushing
pain.
yourself
No.
to the point where you're in pain, but the feeling of suffering you get from physical exertion is a separate thing. And it hurts, but like, it's not going to kill you. You just have to let it hurt.
You just have to let it hurt. I think that's the title of this episode, Let It Hurt, Entering the Pain Cave with Mallory. Because I think that is, and that's something that I've seen in my 10 years of coaching CrossFit and coaching other things, is that you have to learn to do that. And there can be too far. I've definitely seen people who go too far in the other direction. So I think I should preface that and say not every workout needs to be a pain cave workout. If a workout specifically says don't do it, don't do it. If like I'll write a workout that says, hey, this should be more relaxed, you should be practicing this skill, you should probably practice that skill. Because especially like after you've gone to the pain cave, like could you push yourself as hard as you push yourself during quarterfinals weekend every workout?
No, like I felt nauseous for like a full 2 days.
Exactly.
And some days like you can't find that spot either, and you just have to be kind to yourself. Like just this week, yesterday, there was a workout that had the echo bike in it, and I like could not get the echo bike to go fast, and I just didn't have it.
Yeah.
But, you know?
I think that's a good point. So I always tell people like pick 2 workouts a week. If you see something you really like, try and push it. But don't be mad at yourself if you can't, and realize that like if you don't have the ability to, once you've found that intensity, if you've never found it before, it's different. If you don't have the ability to find that intensity, that you just can't, realize that you need to maybe check in with your nutrition, check in with your sleep, and just check in with how hard you're pushing yourself regularly. Because the inability, I'm gonna switch my feet. Oh, so much weird noises, and I'm not gonna edit that weird noise out because I don't know how. Because if you lack that ability to find intensity, that's usually a sign that you might be doing too much, either inside or outside of the gym.
Yeah, and like I don't think you just need to like jump right into that either. There's like other ways that you can sort of find it, using strategies like really being careful in how much rest you're taking. So watching the clock, making a deal with yourself, like, okay, I'm only going to rest for 5 seconds.
Oh yeah, tell me about that, because this is something we've talked about before, is that you'll make deals with yourself. So tell everyone about that.
So I make deals with myself where, like, okay, I'm going to do 30 wall balls, and if I do 30 wall balls, then I can rest 10 seconds. Or I'll think about what the number...
Whoa, I don't think you'd rest 10 seconds.
Well,
that seems like a lot of rest.
The thing is, what I was going to say is that in some cases, I'll figure out what I think a good score is, and then I'll do some backwards math to figure out what my average pace needs to be, and I'll almost turn it into an EMOM, where, like, if I need to do 30 wall balls every minute, and I finish my wall balls in 47 seconds, maybe I'm going to let myself rest until the minute.
Smart.
I also will employ strategies like, and this was something I stole from Kara Webb, she taught, or Kara Saunders.
Kara Saunders now, yeah.
Where I'll like walk in a circle around a piece of equipment. So like if sticking with the wall ball example, I'll like walk out of the rig and around the rig and then back to the wall and pick up the wall ball. And that way I know that I'm always taking the same amount of rest, and I'm not just going to like stand around and stare at the ball. Because like it's not going to get better if you stand there and stare.
No, usually like it physiologically speaking, it can get worse. Like just speaking on the wall ball example, if you've ever done a really big set of wall balls and then went to pick it up again, it hurts a lot more. And then the longer you rest, almost the worse it hurts, because there's some stuff happening in your body that just essentially means your body is like not enjoying itself, and it's going to try and like stop you from doing that. But if you don't give your body the chance to do that, it can sometimes help push you. But I think to recap what you did, you found a strategy that allowed you to time your rest. I think that's the takeaway from that, is timing your rest. Taking breaks, everyone's gonna have to take breaks regardless of how fit you are, but making sure you time your rest. And your strategy was to walk around a piece of equipment.
Or count my breaths.
Or count your breaths. That's what I do. I count my breaths, or I just look at the clock, or for the last couple of years, I'll be honest, I don't usually care that much about my intensity. But we're not talking about me, we're talking about you.
Yeah. So those are sort of 3 different strategies I have employed in which to limit the amount of rest that I find myself taking. And ultimately, that's the way that you push yourself harder.
And pushing yourself harder is how you get fitter. One of the ways you can get fitter.
By doing things that you don't necessarily want to do.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. So that's one thing Mallory did. And I would agree with everything she said. It's probably important. And while we dive into that nutrition a little bit, maybe on a more macro level, get it? Pun intended, because there's macros and you talk about nutrition, but maybe just in general, some of the changes that you've made over the last couple of years to your diet.
Well, we started out by doing a 12-week RP strength cut.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that I had ever actively counted macros. And I found it really difficult. I did not enjoy a lot of the food choices we were making. At that time, the only RP product that was available was like a paper sheet that you printed off, so you had to do all the math and everything. And I think we really maybe overcomplicated it a bit.
And I wouldn't, looking back on it, I wouldn't necessarily recommend what we did as the way to start out with your nutrition.
Yeah.
I had been, I guess, again, not a podcast about me, but I like talking about myself. I had been very overweight at some point, at various points in my adult life. And so I had tried a bunch of things, but Mallory hadn't really done anything before. So we just jumped right into it. But looking back on it, there are probably better ways to go about doing what we did.
Yeah. Well, so we did a cut, and I guess I lost a fairly significant amount of weight, probably like 15 pounds in that first cut. And then we went on to maintenance, and then we did a second cut.
Yeah.
And I lost more weight. And for a total, I think I probably lost like a total of like over 20 pounds. But I would say at that point, I was probably too thin.
Yeah, I think we overdid it a little bit.
Yeah, I was hungry all of the time. I felt very weak. I found it a real struggle to maintain my weight at that level, which was like less than 130 pounds, and I am 5'7" for reference. And I really didn't feel like I was progressing in the gym. I wasn't really making any strength gains, and I guess the bigger issue is that I was hungry all the time, which is not
happy.
No, it's not like a great state of being. And so with quarantine, or the panoramic.
Panoramic?
Yeah, I think that's what the internet kids are calling it.
The pandemic is called a panoramic?
Yeah, or
I don't
like
understand.
any sort of PA word. We like kind of threw a lot of that rigid eating out a little bit, which was bad and good. So
well, it's good for you and not so good for me.
Yeah, I did. I gained a bit of weight back, but like instantly felt so much stronger, and I have added probably like 15 to 20 pounds to all of my 1 rep maxes.
Yeah, just by eating more.
Just by eating more.
But I think it's important to note that when we did that, I think you learned how to eat maybe better quality foods a little bit.
Yeah.
And more of a balanced approach, like getting enough protein, getting enough carbohydrates, and getting enough fats.
Well, we still weigh our protein.
And we still weigh our protein.
To make sure we're eating enough protein. And we still eat like
pretty
mostly
healthy
whole foods.
Yeah.
But I would say that I'm sitting about 10 pounds heavier than I was at my lightest, and I feel way stronger, way happier. So, that's just thinner isn't always better, I guess, in that sense.
So I guess the big thing then was like eating more.
Yeah, and I'm not hungry all of the time.
And I think I'm going to repeat that just so people can hear that, because you got fitter by eating more. And I think that's something I really want to hammer home, and it's something that I noticed, is that Mallory's fitness improved dramatically, and her ability to push herself improved because she was fueling herself properly. And what we did before looked great for our wedding, is why we did it. But I mean, I've been all over the place with my diet, so I wasn't as, I think, impacted, but Mallory took it 100% serious, and I think it worked for its desired impact, but it did impact your performance as well. But then eating more, and again, I'm going to say it, eating more led to an increase in your fitness and your strength and all of that. So nutrition. And then obviously there's other things that she probably could be doing that she's not, because no one's perfect, but you do sleep a lot though. You're a good sleeper.
I like to sleep.
Mallory is a great sleeper. Oops, I touched the microphone. Guys, it's our first time. And Mallory's touching her microphone now, and I don't know how to... One of us is scratchy. I think it's me.
Yeah, it's your...
Oh, it's falling. Okay, just a second. Oh, I see what happened there. We'll clip it back in. There we go. Oh, I have boom mic coming, but I only have one.
I don't know what that means.
It's like a big mic on a boom, like in a regular podcast.
Okay.
This is for like outdoors, because I got this out. This is for a kid for outdoors. I got it because I figure like I can't now with the announcement today, but I figure that I'll be able to interview people outdoors for the next little bit, in a park or something. Not yet, guys, because now we can't, but in the future. So I got this outdoor interview kit that we're using because it arrived first, and then I can get 2 boom mics eventually too. That's besides the point. So eating more, sleep. You're a good sleeper. And then something probably everyone's struggling with right now is stress management, which is something that...
Well, yeah, I don't think that this is...
No, it's not the time
to really be worrying about that.
No. But that's probably the trifecta. And just as an aside, I mean, we're not going to make any real money from this, but if you are struggling with nutrition, we recommend Becky, Becky's Approaching Nutrition course from her Habitual Nutrition. Terrence, who we'll probably have on this podcast eventually, also qualified for quarterfinals. And probably because of his nutrition, and he did it without starving himself first.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that Becky really excels at.
Yeah.
Which is trying to provide an approach that is more lifestyle-based instead of the sort of insane path that we went down, where it was like I was measuring like grains of rice and... Yeah. And Terrence outperformed all of us. Yeah. So if you guys are still listening, get in contact with Becky. I think we found our stride a little bit, though. We're killing it. Yeah. Not to jinx it. So nutrition and speaking with Becky, or we're just going to habitualnutrition.com, checking it out. She has an online course that's very affordable that you can kind of get through. Okay, so we got the intensity. We got the nutrition. And there's not really, you just sleep good. Like you go to bed early, you make a point to go to bed early, you go to bed before me now most of the time. So we can't really talk about that because I don't think you struggle with it. Well, I'm just old now, and so I get tired and I go to bed. Like,
yeah, get old. If you're tired, go to bed. We'll take that. I know that Phil, you guys know Phil, he has struggled with sleep. So he has blackout curtains. He's a shift worker now. So blackout curtains are really important. I'm rocking. I was trying to stop. I'm nervous now. We're doing good, and I'm getting nervous. Blackout curtains. I like ocean noises to fall asleep, but apparently they keep Mallory awake, so we can't do that. But yeah, so get your sleep dialed in. Okay, so.
Should we move on to talking about where the programming is going?
That was a terrible segue.
In the future, so that next year, rather than being 548th in the Open, I can be 300th or 250th.
250th?
Yeah.
In Canada. That's not North, that's just in Canada.
No, in Canada, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, so so the other, I guess, thing I can talk about, because is that mine?
I don't know.
We'll figure it out. I think it's your hair on yours. Okay. So I guess the thing I can talk about is the training program. So the majority of Mallory's training came from our class workouts. She wasn't doing like some secret training program that I wasn't sharing with everyone else. She was doing the class training program. And I think the first lockdown, she added a squat on her own. I think that was about all you did, is you just added an extra squat every week. We usually squat once every 9 or so days. Mallory added in another squat, so she was back squatting or front squatting once or twice a week. And that's what she did the first bit. And that's something I've told people to do for years, is if you want to get fitter and you know strength is a weakness, you can always add in another squat. Like say we squat on Tuesday in the class for strength, you would just squat on Friday. And if we squatted on Tuesday with a back squat, you would do a front squat on Friday. And just keep it simple. Just work up to a heavy set of 3 or do 5 sets of 3. You don't need to get complicated with it. You don't need like some secret squat program unless you're squatting like 250 pounds. And so we've had people hit some pretty big numbers doing that program. Kansas, for instance, so she owns an affiliate in Lindsay. She squatted for, there was a 4 rep max in the quarterfinals, and she front squatted 238 pounds for 4. And up until January of this year, she was just doing our class programming and had been just doing our class programming for 4 years, not adding to it. So our class programming is the basis of Mallory's training. It's all I do because I'm old now, and it's the basis of everyone's training. It's been the basis of Phil's training for years, even when he was a high high-level athletes. It's always been our class program. But we do have some options to add on to that now. So since January, I've been publishing some competitive program that uses the class programming. So it's like if you want to do an extra session or even just an extra lift every day, there's an option now. And as of this week, actually, so I guess the first week, I've been putting a little bit more effort into making it more accessible. So what that means is if you scroll on your sugar watt and you scroll the workout of the day, there'll be 1 to 3 options of things you can do after class. So that allows you to add a little bit without adding too much. If it is something you want to dial in. But there's a reason we talked about this last. Adding more programming is the least important thing that we talked about. The first is probably making sure your nutrition's locked in. We talked about second. We didn't have an outline. Now looking back on it, we just reshoot the whole thing, start over. Nutrition is number 1, so get in contact with Becky. Number 2 is sleep. And those kind of go hand in hand. We'll just say lifestyle, but Becky will help you with both. And then after that, it's finding intensity. And for some people, adding training has a net negative impact because they lose the ability to find intensity. And then lastly, it's addressing weaknesses. And so in our training program, there'll be things that say, if you're weak at gymnastics, you should do this. If you're weak at this, you should do this. And if you have a lot of time on your hands, and you really want to take it to the next level, you can always just scroll over to Rock Breaker and do all of it. And so that will be an additional probably 90 to 2 hours of training a day with with more optional conditioning. So that training program can take up to 4 to 6 hours a day, depending on how serious you want to take it. And we're starting a new cycle on Monday, so it's the perfect time to join in.
And what is going to be the focus of this upcoming cycle that the Open is behind us?
Now that the Open is over, we're going to focus on building a little bit of strength, because strength is the hardest thing to build. So everyone thinks it's like all of these other things, but building pure strength is the hardest thing to do, because to do it properly, the first thing you want to do is strengthen your tendons and ligaments. And actually, like with PED use, which we're not promoting in any way, but with PED use, a lot of people get repetitive injuries because if you take like performance enhancing drugs, your muscle tends to grow faster than your tendons and ligaments, which can create issue. So I have a training kind of template I've used every off season with competitive athletes now for 4 or 5 years that's focused on strengthening tendons and ligaments. And what I'm really proud of with it is it's like led to a very low number of injuries amongst people I've worked with in the past who've trained at the highest level. Because I think of this kind of tendon ligament strengthening base. And so that requires a lot of tempo stuff, which is really unpleasant to do, but there'll be tempo deadlifts, tempo squats, and there's also a lot of kind of bodybuilding, which is more fun. And for you, those of you who are just kind of listening and not have any interest in the tempo stuff, there'll be instructions every day how to add the bodybuilding into your training, which is what I plan on doing, is probably just adding some of the bodybuilding in, because that's a way to make yourself look a little bit better and help with kind of the injury prevention stuff. Oh, and then lastly, because strength is the hardest thing to do, if you know that strength is a weakness, and if you have any questions, you can talk to myself or Brandon. Or if you just don't have like kind of the space for a high level CrossFit program, we do offer a strength building program called Builder, which features 1 to 3 Metcons a week, but it's focused on strength. So one thing I've noticed in the past kind of 10 years now is that for the most part, you don't need to stop doing CrossFit to get strong unless you're really good at the endurance side of CrossFit. And then sometimes it makes sense to kind of take a step back and get strong. Or maybe you have an injury or you're burnt out. So we have another option there for people to jump in and on. You can jump on and off as you see fit as well. Your question?
Well, I was just going to say, like, what is an example of a way that the tempo squats strengthens your tendons and ligaments?
What is an example?
Well, like how have you come to the conclusion that that's the way to go?
Oh, because that's what science said.
Okay.
There's scientific studies that said that, and Phil told me that as well after I made him do it. He's like, I really like this. It's strengthening my tendons and ligaments. And I was like, thanks, Phil. And I Googled it afterwards. I was just making him do it because it seemed hard.
Oh, okay. So that's how you make your decisions?
But
like,
then I found out there was a scientific reason for it.
Okay.
But to be fair, for most strength and conditioning science, people find out something works and they need to find out the why afterwards. And so CrossFit, when CrossFit first started in like the early 2000s, people really didn't like it because it didn't make any sense from a strength and conditioning standpoint. What people were doing in CrossFit defied traditional strength and conditioning wisdom. Like you should just do back and bis on one day. You can't get stronger, leaner, and faster at the same time. But then you have people snatching 300 pounds and running sub 25Ks in the same day. So and now they're trying to, and now there's like a bunch of bodybuilders who do CrossFit style bodybuilding. Jeff Nippard actually has a video about this, if you Google it, about his like full body training cycle, and it's essentially bodybuilding CrossFit because he's found it's way more effective. And he has a bunch of science behind why.
Yeah, and I guess now that some of the top tier athletes like Matt and Tia are now putting their programs online, what is showing up is a lot more bodybuilding style accessory work than maybe you might think.
Yeah, the body, so that's a good thing to talk about. I guess I now understand what you're trying to lead out of me. The bodybuilding, like when you do want to add training, like you can only be intense, like you can only like row a max 2K so often. You can only do like Fran in 3 minutes or so often. But what you can do is you can grab a set of dumbbells and press them overhead, or you can grab a set of dumbbells and walk slowly with them. So the best way to add volume without sacrificing the ability to generate intensity is through kind of these bodybuilding circuits. And then we also have some additional weightlifting. I will caveat that and say most people shouldn't do additional weightlifting without instruction. One big thing I've seen in the past few years is people hit up extra weightlifting, but they are doing it wrong. And then they're just repeating the same thing over and over again incorrectly. And that leads to more problems down the line. Like if you have a hitch in your snatch, or you don't hit position and you're clean, or something weird happens and you just practice that over and over again, it's gonna be a really, really hard habit to break.
Yeah, and I mean, conditions are not ideal right now with everybody at home. Edmund, I know that we've said this a million times, but it still like bears repeating, which is that this is the perfect time to focus on the accessories that are going to pay off dividends once you actually are back in the gym and you have a barbell in your hand.
And it had, for people who have done it, it has paid off for them.
Yeah, so all of those single arm overhead squats that you're doing, it may seem really repetitive and boring and hard, but it is improving your overhead position. And once you come back in, it's going to make your overhead squat and your snatch that much better.
Yeah, thanks. That's a good point. Good point. Okay, awesome. Is there anything else in our outline we need to talk about? Oh, scaling. So we'll take an audience question. I actually got Brandon to give me the question he gets asked the most, and I'm just gonna actually pull it up on Slack so I can read the way he worded it. Again, this would be if I had my producer. We'll get a producer. We'll start a GoFundMe so we can get a producer for our podcast.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
We're not doing that. Okay, never mind. Okay, so Brandon said, our Slack is off the chain. It's right there. Okay. Here's a question that I think people need answered. Should I always finish the workout? And the short answer is yes, but you shouldn't finish it with like 6 minutes in it. Like if it's like this workout should take 12 to 16 minutes, you should not finish it in 9 minutes, and you probably shouldn't even finish it in 12 minutes unless you're doing it RX. So now the past week, Brandon didn't ask me this until today, but I've been trying to do a better job of giving you guys more of the stimulus. So if you click the sugar wad, there's a part that says intended stimulus, but even on the workout itself, it says time domain. And if you're scaling, you should aim to be on the upper end of those time domains. Of course, this is an answer where it depends. So like if it's like today's workout, I guess today's workout wasn't for time, but if it was like if today was for time and you know that you need to get stronger, one way you can get stronger is by just going heavier on today's workout and maybe getting time capped. But what we want to avoid is never getting time capped and being on the end of it, on the low end. You should be in the middle, high end. And I think that's the best answer I can give.
Well, yeah, don't pick a scale that's going to have you finishing like 10 minutes ahead of everyone who's doing it RX. You want a scale that is going to challenge you in the same way that the RX athletes are being challenged by the RX weight.
Yeah, and I think the big thing, it's different now because I haven't coached really in person in over a year, like except for those brief stints outside. But one thing I'd always say to people, like, because sometimes people will underscale, like they'll go too heavy, is and it hasn't happened because we've been in such weird conditions, but if I give someone a scale and they don't agree with that, I'll usually encourage them to try and beat the best RX time for the day, and that doesn't normally happen. And so it's almost better to always overscale, like scale a little bit too much than not scale enough. Because if you scale a little bit too much, you're going to have a good workout. And you can always check sugar wad and be like, oh man, I the fastest time for RX was like 5 minutes slower than me. Then you probably overscaled. But if you underscale, you're more likely to miss the intended stimulus of the workout completely.
Yeah, but and also there's situations in which like it isn't bad to push yourself a little bit. So like underscaling double unders is a lot different than underscaling barbell weight, right? Because like gutting your way through a set of 20 double unders is going to have a lot less risk associated with it than having a barbell that has 30 pounds too much on it.
Yeah, and I think another point is sometimes that like you can get in this trap of scaling, like double unders is a good example. If you always scale your double unders, you can just never get better at them. But sometimes if you force yourself, like no matter what, there's 20 double unders, I have to do it. I'm going to do 20 double unders every round no matter what. That can force you to get better. Okay, so I think that's it. We got 40 minutes, which is exactly how long I thought it would be. You thought it would be 10. So we'll probably do this again, and it might just be Mallory and I. Maybe she can ask me questions, or we'll see. It doesn't look like we're gonna be boarded into our houses, it appears. We're filming this Friday after the announcement on April 16th. So we'll see what happens, and maybe I can figure out how to Skype someone in, but I don't plan on doing that. I do plan on getting some more cameras set up so we can do like multiple edits. Get super intense with it.
People gotta have hobbies.
Yeah, this is my new hobby, by the way. Getting into audio-visual stuff. Okay, that's it. I don't know how to end it. We don't have any intro music. So I'm just going to turn it off and hope everything recorded. Thanks for listening if you listened all the way through. And we'll try. It's me, it's my podcast. I'll try and get better as we go. That's all I can hope to do, right?
I guess so.
Okay. Maybe Mallory will be a fixture, though. Every episode you'll be on. No. We are taking applications though for a co-host.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to be a permanent co-host, maybe you can apply to it.
Okay.
Okay. Bye, guys.